Let's talk about how this interlock drill can help you get the perfect feeling with your right arm in the downswing, just like the pros are doing. It can help you get more lag. So if you've been trying to get more lag in your downswing, if you've been trying to get rid of a scoop or a flip where you're not really having a ton of lag and releasing out in front, but you're kind of casting, maybe losing lag up here and scooping at the bottom, that chicken wing, you want to get your body to rotate more. Everything can be solved when we do this right arm interlock drill. So first let's go over, before we get to the drill, what the right arm should be doing so we know what the goal is. Then once we know the goal, let's walk through the drill step by step. All right, if you look at pretty much any PGA Tour player or any great player at your local club, what you're going to find is that in their downswing, if you pause at last parallel, or when the club shaft is parallel to the ground in the downswing, the hands are going to be in front of the right leg. Now, that's a pretty good amount of lag to have that late in the swing. I see almost virtually no recreational players getting that much lag late. Now, from there, you can get a high shot, you get a low shot. It's basically just taking the hands out of it. So what I mean by that is, if I have all this angle coming into the downswing, I can just let the hands go and that club release, and it gets a lot of whip through that last little section, and the club head does the work for you. I'm not having to feel like I cast it out and all of a sudden the hands are manipulating the club as they're coming through there. So in order to do that, the right wrist specifically has to be bent back. So if I'm going to have this angle with a lot of lag, if I just hold up my right wrist, it's basically as far back as I can get it to go. If I start to let, that's what's called extension of the right wrist, if I start to let that go and flatten out this way, you'll notice how that directly releases the angle of the club. So as I start to flatten that right wrist, that club starts to release. So last parallel, or when my hands are in front of my right leg, I want to have this thing bent back as much as I can. If I add the club there again, I'll show you this way. That's that releasing of the club shaft. Now another one here, which is called supination. You can remember this like you're holding a bowl of soup. You rotate your forearm this direction. That will also be happening. So the right wrist is not only bent back, but instead of the hand being this way, it's supinated or turned to the right there. So even if I don't move my elbow, I can turn my wrist. Another way to feel this, imagine you walk up and grab a doorknob and you just turn the doorknob to the right. You notice how the elbow isn't moving. You're almost fully supinated as far as you can be. Not quite 100%, but pretty much as far as you can be, considering the left hand is still on the club. So again, if I come down to the downswing, if my left hand is basically here, I'm really feeling like my wrist is turned to the right or supinated as much as I can in the downswing there. And you'll notice when you look from down the line that the club is a little bit from the inside. Depending on the camera angle where you have it set up, it should be, if this is straight toward the target or parallel to the target, let's just say, it's very slightly inside of that. And that's not a small thing. If you ever want to hit a power fade, you have to come in from the inside like that. If you take all the great power faders throughout history, look at Dustin Johnson, how well he hits a power fade on virtually all his drives. You're going to see him coming from the inside like that, and that allows him to be able to let the club do the work, and he just keeps on turning to the left. Doesn't feel like you have to get a lot of hands into it. So it's that extension, it's that supination of the right wrist, or rotating to the right, turning the doorknob to the right, and then finally it's tucking that elbow. The reason that you have the elbow tucked through impact is so that I can have that lag and rotate through the shot and kind of stay in my posture. If I start to throw that right elbow or release that right arm, I have to back up out of my posture in order to not bury the club in the ground. So for example, if I'm here and I have this right elbow tucked, I'm in my posture, well, if I throw the right elbow, I'm going to be throwing that club into the ground. You do release that right elbow, but it's more towards your, what we call the straight line release in the topspeed golf system. So it's here, and then as I rotate through, it's releasing. Now you can see the right arm goes straight. So it's there, and I'm almost like I'm feeling like I'm throwing a golf ball out in front, kind of down my target line. So I'm letting that golf ball go as I release the club. So that's the feeling that you should be having. Now, as a bonus, this drill is going to walk you through a feeling of connection with the left side of your body. So the left side of my body actually should feel like it's very tight in with my chest. So if I put my right hand in my armpit, I should feel like when I'm coming through impact, my body is rotating into the left side. So everything's rotating into my arm, and this is getting tighter and tighter, and it's very connected. If you look at every great ball striker, they're going to be very connected with that lead side, or it's going to look like this. This would be me, everything facing the camera. This would be me rotating into that lead arm, but the arm stays still. So the arm doesn't move, my entire body rotates into it, and you'll notice you feel really tight there when that happens. This interlocking drill is great for that too. So finally, let's get to the drill. We know what the body is supposed to be doing now. Let's just get a good way to feel this. So take your right hand, interlock it with your left hand on top. I want to go down to where I'd be in my posture, and then I'm going to rotate that as far to the right as I can while keeping my left arm pretty straight. Now from here, I'm going to imagine that my palms are toward the ground. I'm feeling like I'm putting pressure into the ground with my palms. I'm rotating my wrist to the right like this, so I don't want my hands straight up in front. I want them rotated to the right or supinated like we went over. I want that elbow to be tucked. And from there, I'm going to feel like almost like I'm petting the grass with my hands instead of flipping my hands or scooping my hands. So I interlock the fingers, I'm here, and I just pet that grass, elbow tucked. I would have a ton of lag, and I would have this feeling. Now, what I love about this, you're so tight with this left side, it gets rid of all that kind of throwing of the club, and you have to rotate the body as this is happening. So just imagine you're kind of petting the grass for 10 or 15 repetitions here. You also have a ton of lag. That's just the feeling of lag there. You have that right arm really tucked in tight with the side. So once you get the feeling of that, and now that you know what the right arm is supposed to be doing, just do 5 or 10 reps, and then try to recreate that same feeling with a shot. The progression that I like to do, which will actually speed your progress as fast as possible, 5 or 10 reps doing the interlocking drill, then a couple of swings trying to get that feel with the right arm. Maybe I'm going a little bit slower, but I'm not hitting a golf ball. So here, there's the motion, and then I'm just letting that go. One more time, and I say, okay, that feels like my interlocking drill. Then I'm ready to hit a golf ball. Let's see if I can get a nice little tight draw and get the same sensation I had in that drill. There we go. I'm not going to hit one any better than that. That was a 7-iron. First swing of the day. I might have started doing that drill every single time. I hit a 198-yard carry, 206 yards after rollout. That's about as good as I can do. Now, there's one thing that I think is incredibly beneficial when you're doing this. Most people are not that comfortable being this close to the ground because they don't have enough lag. So when I'm doing this drill, I'm getting close to the ground and I'm able to swing because I have this lag that goes into shaft lean and then the club moves out in front. I have a great drill that's going to get you comfortable with being closer to the ground, comfortable with the right feeling with your upper body, and it's called the knuckle dragger. I'm going to play a preview of that here in just 1 second. All you need to do is click the card that pops up on your screen. If you don't see the card, don't worry. Go ahead and click the link down below in the description, and you'll get instant access to that video. You pair that up with what we talked about here today, and your swing is going to be looking a whole heck of a lot more like the pros. Let's go and get started. I got an awesome video for you. This one is what I call knuckle dragger. This is one of the best ones, one of the big missing pieces to players that are struggling to get more lag. Now, let's talk about when you lose lag, what's happening. A lot of times what's happening is as you make your downswing, if we're looking from this down the line view, what happens is my hips go toward the golf ball, they start to slide forward. My chest moves back away from this golf ball, so I'm getting farther away from the golf ball, and then all of a sudden I cast, I flip, and I don't have a lot of lag there. Well, look how far my hands are away from the ground. Also notice when I get my hands closer to the ground, so as my hands get lower, then what happens is they also go forward more. So as I want to have more lag, when you feel like your knuckles are dragging the ground, then that club is naturally going to lag back behind, and then you're going to release that out in front. When your hands are far away from the ground, well, if I had all that lag, where would I be swinging? I'd be swinging a foot over top of the golf ball. So you have to kind of flip, release that lag early to just make contact with the golf ball at all. So having those knuckles feeling like they're scraping the ground is really going to be a big key. Now another piece to this, again, when I talked about losing that posture, your hips go forward. You're going to want to feel like, as those hands scrape the ground, your knuckles drag the ground.